Coming up on Naperville News 17, the looming legislation on recreational marijuana has council talking local consequences. And kids are ready to ride at the wonderful World of Wheels. Hello everyone, I'm Kim Pierce. Thanks for joining us for this week's Naperville News. Recreational marijuana could be decriminalized in Illinois, and Naperville City Council wants to be prepared. Naperville News 17's Casey Krajewski has the story.
Governor J.B. Pritzker recently introduced a bill that would legalize the sale and possession of recreational marijuana statewide. And with the Democratic Party in control of the Illinois House and Senate, Illinois becoming the 11th state to legalize cannabis is likely. City Council discussed what that means for Naperville at its most recent meeting.
Will we see an increase in crime? Will we see a decrease in medical calls? What have other similar communities like ours seen after legalization that we should consider?
Police Chief Robert Marshall and Fire Chief Mark Puknitis said their departments are in the process of looking through the proposed 335-page bill. But it's still early to speculate.
There are, in some cases, when drugs are introduced, cause a decrease in the number of calls. For instance, drugs that help individuals with high blood pressure or cardiac situations. So the story is yet to be told.
If the bill is passed statewide, City Attorney Michael DeSanto said there is not a way to block legalized recreational cannabis at the municipal level. But banning the sale of it is an option.
The opt-out for communities is just for the sale of marijuana so that it doesn't prevent people from buying it and bring it in. So basically what you've done is made it less convenient for people to get it who choose to, but you're not preventing its use. And so that's something to take into consideration because now you've got all the consequences of legalized recreational marijuana, but none of the benefits. No sales tax generation, things like that.
City staff and the public safety chiefs will present a report on the repercussions of legalized recreational marijuana at a later meeting. For Naperville News 17, I'm Casey Krajewski.
If the bill passes, it will not go into effect until 2020. Affordable housing was the topic at a recent community conversation. Naperville City Councilman John Crumman and DuPage County Board member Dawn Dessart hosted the event, but much of the discussion was driven by the panel of experts. Organizations like Habitat for Humanity and DuPage Housing Alliance gave context to why it's important to provide affordable housing options.
Studies show that 1 in 4 renters pay more than 50% of their income on housing, which leaves less for other important expenses like food, transportation, healthcare, and education.
But what makes housing affordable? A person or family making 60% of the area median household income, adjusted for family size, should spend no more than 30% of their income on rent and utilities for a dwelling to fit the definition. Part of the presentation was designed to dispel the notion that affordable housing brings down the value of homes in the community.
What you're going to see as we talk about affordable housing is the units that are built now are really incredibly good units. We're using some of those grants. Some of those grants have requirements where we have to provide certain energy efficiency levels. We might have to provide green and sustainable housing, all kinds of those things.
The discussion came shortly after Naperville's Housing Advisory Commission recommended at least 20% of homes in the Fifth Avenue redevelopment project meet the requirements of affordable. The Illinois Housing Development Authority mandates that 10% of Naperville's housing be affordable. However, only 7.5% of Naperville's homes currently meet that qualification. At a City Council meeting on April 4th, Council asked City staff to return with language that would make 20% affordable housing an official goal for the Fifth Avenue project. At that same Council meeting, Crumman suggested an ordinance requiring all future housing developments of a certain size to include at least 10% affordable housing. The downtown Starbucks could soon be serving cocktails along with their coffee. At the latest Liquor Commission meeting, the Starbucks on Main Street was granted a Class B liquor license to allow them to transform from just a coffee shop to Princey, Starbucks' new upscale cafe.
The Reserve Bar, which I hope some of you are familiar with, is going to implement certain changes to bring in a substantial food program. And as part of that food programming, what we're looking for is to add incidental liquor service.
The Starbucks Reserve would still serve coffee in the morning, but come noon, the menu offerings will resemble that of an Italian restaurant.
On site will be fresh proofing, fresh baking, many different kinds of pizzas, focaccias, pastries, bread, salads, soup. We even make our own cannoli cream. You might see a group of, maybe 3 or 4 customers sitting together. Maybe 2 of them have a coffee, one of them has a cocktail, and another one has a glass of wine.
Starbucks officials said the coffee shop would close anywhere from 30 to 60 days for it to transform into its new form. The hours of operation would remain the same. Also at the meeting, council granted requests for Festa Italiana and the Last Fling to sell spirits. The Naperville Riverwalk Commission has delayed their vote on whether to renovate Moser Tower or tear it down. Last month, the commission said they were going to vote on their decision in May's meeting, but local experts acting as quality control recommended they first should do some mathematical structuring of the tower.
This modeling will show where the stresses and strains would be. We can compare that to where we've seen the different cracks and all, and just confirm that that the structure's operating and functioning as it should by the model.
Initial reports have shown corrosion and concrete deterioration within the structure. Fixing that could run from $1.3 to $2.4 million. Or the commission could demolish Moser Tower, which would cost $660,000. The group is unsure if the modeling will find new repairs, but want to be sure of cost estimates before presenting their recommendation to City Council.
Sure that if the budget that was developed was going to be modified in any way because of the outcomes of the report, we wanted to make sure that the information that everybody had was as accurate as we possibly can, and the additional study hopefully will not change that, but at least we check that off the list, as Bill said.
The Riverwalk Commission will take the next couple of months to do that mathematical modeling of Moser Tower, and said they'll vote in early fall, which is when council will start working on next year's budget. After the break, a new group with a lot of pride.
Medici Neapolitan Pizza has created the magic of an Italian piazza right in downtown Naperville. Choose from the freshest ingredients available, and all their sauces are prepared on site. Enjoy salads with dressings made from scratch, to shareable plates that celebrate the flavors of Italy, to the pizza of your dreams. From the olive tree in the center of the restaurant to the imported Italian wood-fired oven, if you want a more authentic Italian experience, you need a passport.
It was a night of hellos and goodbyes at District 203's board meeting. They bid farewell to longtime board member Terry Fielden. He served 12 years on the board before deciding not to run for re-election this spring.
You guys stand in my mind as the best board I've ever served with during the 6 boards that I had. This is the most mature board that I've encountered and the most thoughtful. Everybody here is student focused.
Taking Fielden's place is newly elected Joe Kosminski, a professor at Lewis University. Kosminski took his oath to the board alongside re-elected members Janet Yang Rohr and Christine Gerke. All will serve a 4-year term. Also of note at the meeting, the board received a presentation on the 2019-2020 tentative budget. Projections show $291.2 million in revenue and $283.4 million in expenditures. The biggest non-staffing budget items include a $2 million multi-use turf field at Knock Park, a $77,000 diversity and inclusion training for school leadership, and a $53,000 communication and engagement platform. The District 203 tentative budget also calls for cuts of 5 administrative positions. The board will continue to workshop the tentative budget before adopting it in June. A newly formed community group hopes to promote inclusivity and celebrate LGBTQ initiatives in Naperville. Naper Pride is a family-centered, Naperville-focused group, all about providing resources for both the general public and local LGBTQ community members.
Because everyone knows the pride flag. Our logo also has the trans colors on it as well at the top of the N. Also has the colors at the bottom of the N for, you know,
people of color
and things like that. So our logo right off the bat is promoting that inclusivity of everyone, trying to make sure that everyone, you know, is there for it.
The organization was motivated by area groups like Aurora Pride. But other factors, like Naperville's low ranking on the Human Rights Campaign, an LGBTQ advocacy group, were also behind the formation.
There have always been people here, but they just didn't feel like they could be out. And now there are definitely a lot more people in the LGBT community having families and have the same wishes and wants as any other families to make sure that their kids are getting good education, their safety, and everybody feels welcome.
Naper Pride has a number of events lined up this year, such as a movie marathon, an interfaith service, and a health and wellness fair. You can check out naperpride.org or their Facebook page for more details about their events or how to get involved. And in a moment of pride for our news team, I'm happy to share this is the 10th year for Naperville News 17. In honor of that, here's a look behind the scenes at how we pull it all together. Hello everyone, I'm Kim Pierce. Thanks for joining us for this week's Naperville News. Naperville News 17 is a weekly show, but news happens 24/7. That's why we have reporters out covering events and stories all week long. It starts with the Monday morning news meeting. Reporters pitch stories and look to see what's coming up in the community. Typically, each reporter is assigned 3 or 4 stories a week. Then it's time to hit the ground running. Reporters grab their gear, go out in the field, and capture all the video and audio elements needed.
Reporting for Naperville News 17, I'm Aisha Ashley Hausa.
News coverage requires equal parts tech and writing skills. As the news producer, I read through scripts and make sure the stories are clear and concise. On Thursday, once the stories are complete, it's time to anchor. Invocations have been a part of the board's agenda since we use a virtual set through a green screen in our fully HD studio. Our editor then takes those anchor reads and each reporter's stories and combines them into a half-hour show. This includes adding names, titles, and graphics. Friday afternoon, we watch the entire episode, checking for any final changes. And come 6 p.m., the Naperville community can tune in on air and online to get the most up-to-date information on what's happening in their town. And at the latest City Council meeting, the group proclaimed May 7th as Naperville News 17 Day in our honor. If you'd like to hear how we got our start and how we've grown, you can watch the half-hour special on just that on our website, nctv17.com. Coming up, how some fast action helps save this local fisherman's life.
Give the gift of downtown Naperville. Treat someone special to a great shopping, dining, or spa experience with Downtown Naperville gift cards. Good at more than 150 businesses. Purchase them at 4 convenient locations or online and have them mailed directly to the lucky recipients. Best of all, there's no purchasing fee. Just choose an amount and send. It's that easy. The perfect gift for anyone at any time.
We tell everybody's stories big and small. Everybody's story matters to us, and it comes in a variety of shapes and sizes, and that's what makes it so special. We don't always need a big story. Sometimes we want a story that makes us laugh. Sometimes we want a story that we relate to. Sometimes we want to cry with that story. But more importantly, we want to hear the stories about our people in the community.
At their latest meeting, the Naperville Park District swore in their new board. Josh McBroom is the newest commissioner to sit on the Park District Board.
I've always volunteered in some capacity in town, and this kind of seemed like the next step. I'm a big user of the parks. I get a lot out of the Park District. I've gotten a lot. I'm raising 3 boys in town, and I just thought it was great. I look at it as another volunteer opportunity. I'm looking forward to helping out.
McBroom joined Marie Todd and Rick Janner for the swearing-in ceremony, which was facilitated by DuPage County Associate Circuit Court Judge Kavita Athanakar. McBroom will take the place of Jim Ensign on the board, who chose not to run for the position in the April election.
I also think about back in the 60s when I first learned to swim at a Park District pool, and all the things that that did for me, and I know all the things that my life is just a small representation of tens of thousands of people that we affect every year.
Board President Mike Riley presented Ensign with a plaque commemorating his many years of service as a board member and former employee of the Park District. The next Park District Board meeting will be held on May 23rd at the Fort Hill Activity Center. This year's Dancing with the Celebrities dancers have been revealed. Putting on their dancing shoes are Kara Carpenter of the Naperville Area Chamber of Commerce, Gerald Lewis of BMO Harris Bank, Kristen Giannini of White Eagle Golf Club, Paul Novak of T2 Asset Management, Anita Knotts of Calamos Wealth Management, Dan Zeman of Zeman Manufacturing Company, Kelly Meyer Douglas of Itsy Ritzy, and Tim Pabick from Magnatech.
When we started doing this 10 years ago, we did not think we would make it to year 3. And year 3 turned into year 5, and year 5 turned into year now 10. So, I think there's just a lot of, 1, support around the event, but 2, just really about what we do and all the things that we offer.
The annual Community Career Center event will be held on September 18th at Maison Sabika. Proceeds from the event benefit the center, which provides employment resources to job seekers. Early bird ticket sales for Dancing with the Celebrities open on July 1st. Mother's Day is a special occasion for moms all across America, but being a grandmother is a completely different challenge. Anderson's Bookshop recently invited columnist and author Anna Quindlen for a book talk on her latest release, Naperville: Adventures in Grandparenting.
I never thought about being a grandmother. It just seemed too many stages removed from my everyday life, even from my everyday life as a mother.
Quindlen told stories from the book and also discussed how being a grandmother has made her reevaluate her own life.
I describe in the book the day that we were walking down the driveway and he discovered his shadow. And I mean, we spent a long afternoon, he moved, the shadow moved, he raised his arm, the shadow, and I thought to myself, I have not really looked at a shadow for 25 years since Maria was a little girl.
Those who attended the event also got a free signed copy of Naperville, just in time for Mother's Day. A local group of elementary students are making their mark on this world and beyond. Our own Christian Kenazal has the story.
Legos, space equipment, and fuzzy pies? This unusual combination could lead to some out-of-this-world sleep. This group of 6th graders, known as Fuzzy Pie, was inspired after they heard about astronaut Scott Kelly's sleeping struggles.
There's no sensation of gravity in space, so you can't feel like you're sleeping on Earth. You don't have any sense of direction, so you can't be on a bed. So they sleep in a sleeping bag in space.
According to Fuzzy Pie, 75% of astronauts have to take sleeping pills that can have harmful side effects. But the group has come up with a more natural solution: haptic pajamas that monitor an astronaut's sleeping schedule.
You can feel pressure, you can feel a bunch of things with them, different textures sometimes. So we can use that to simulate lying on a bed.
The group's research, along with their robotic skills, have earned them an invitation to Sydney, Australia, where they'll compete at the first LEGO League Asia Pacific Open Championship in July. Until the competition, Fuzzy Pie will be building the robot and programming it to move around a table while completing missions along the way.
We all work together to combine all of our ideas into one idea so that we can get it done in the least amount of time.
The competition allows robotic teams 4 chances for a successful run. Fuzzy Pie will be judged on how well they work together and their presentation on the hectic pajama idea. Sean, Allie's twin, said the STEM-centric project has provided some real-life lessons.
It helps a lot with group work in school, and it helps just collaborate better with people around me.
If you're like in a problem with like programming or building, you can't just like stop and give up. You have to keep going.
And Fuzzy Pie hopes to go all the way on July 4th and bring some hardware back home. For Naperville News 17, I'm Christian Canizal.
And Fuzzy Pie has set up a GoFundMe page to help them get to Australia. The Forest Preserve District of DuPage County honored 3 men who helped save a fisherman who nearly drowned. Naperville News 17's Christine Lena has that story.
On April 24th, 71-year-old Ramon Garchitorena went fishing at Silver Lake at the Blackwell Forest Preserve. But when Ramon stepped into the water to retrieve his lure, he fell in. Tyler Line was fishing nearby and quickly ran over to help.
I got him back to shore like a blur. I didn't notice what was happening. I didn't say anything until after I started giving him CPR. You know, I was freaking out in my mind. I just kept pumping his chest, and until I got him to start coughing up a little bit of water, that's when I screamed to the other 2 guys.
Line shouted over to 2 boaters, Gary Jacobs and Alfredo Cedino, to have them call 911. Ramon regained consciousness thanks to Line's CPR, while Jacobs and Cedino transported first responders to the scene.
These guys were the right people on the right spot on the right time. There's not a lot of people who probably do what they did.
All 3 men were recognized by the Forest Preserve and the Warrenville Fire Department for their life-saving efforts. While Ramon says he'll continue fishing at the Forest Preserve, he promises to never go back into the water. Reporting for Naperville News 17, I'm Christine Lena.
The special ceremony was the first time that all 3 rescuers had seen Ramon since saving him in April. Up next, how fencing forms friendships at the Alfred Rubin Community Center.
Naperville Crime Stoppers.
Yes, I'd like to report some suspicious activity in my neighborhood. How does this work?
Yes, thanks for calling. Your call is anonymous, and I will not ask for your name. Instead, you'll be identified by a tip number. In a few weeks, call back with the tip number you received, and I will let you know the status of your tip. If an arrest is made, you could receive a reward up to $1,000.
How do I get the reward money if you don't know who I am?
Well, when you call back, we set up a time and a place to drop the money. You will be safe, and nobody will know you gave Crime Stoppers a tip.
Okay, well, here's what's going on.
Che Fagata is everything amazing about Italy right here in Naperville. Fresh made pasta is tossed with the finest ingredients, while meats, seafood, and vegetables are cooked over a mixture of hickory, apple, and olive woods, roaring in a wood-fired grill and brick oven. Almost everything you can enjoy on the menu is available to bring home with Che Fagata's Italian and Mediterranean market.
Peter Habala is perhaps a little overqualified. An instructor for the Naperville Park District's fencing program, the Romanian native is a 5-time national champion.
I was 6-7 years old. I took a lot of practice, it took a lot of sacrifices and a lot of discipline to get where I got.
Now the owner of his own club, Red Star Fencing Club Chicago, it's his turn to impart his experience on local fencers here in Naperville.
We have a good coach. He's a 5-time master from Romania, so he runs an excellent program. It's attracting lots of people, and we're growing.
John Jamby is just one of around 20 people who come weekly to Habala's class. At 64 years old, he now has nearly 4 decades of fencing experience under his own belt.
It's both very physical. You get good exercise, good workout, which we need, and it's also very mental. It's like a chess game. You get to you've got to figure out your opponent. He's got certain habits and skills, and you've got certain habits and skills, and you got to find the weakness.
It can be a lifetime activity for anybody who joins the fencing program. Kids can learn a lot about discipline and etiquette, which is gonna form them into the people who they're gonna be in the future.
And that is perhaps what makes this class unique, the blend of the backgrounds of its participants.
Pretty easy and simple to pick up on, and as you pick up on it, you can develop the skill, and it doesn't matter if you're old or young, anyone can do it.
At 15 years old, Evelyn Krupika already plans on continuing on into college, but she wouldn't be here unless she and her sister happened to stumble upon the class in the Park District's catalog, about as random as how 13-year-old Jacob Shue found the sport as well.
I was like in 4th grade, I was just watching TV, it just came up somewhere, and I was interested by it, so I looked into it, and now I'm here.
Both Jacob and Evelyn have already been fencing for 4 years apiece, experiencing its unique blend of physical and mental components, as well as different ages and backgrounds.
Brings generations together, and actually the adults can help and guide younger fencers, and in the same time younger fencers, if they're really good, they can actually be better fencers than the adults because of their technical or tactical or physical abilities.
And that break in the generational divide shows up not just in the class, but outside the walls of the Alfred Rubin Community Center.
We get together sometimes in the summer in the off season, have a party, get together and watch Princess Bride and eat and fence a little bit. So yeah, it's and you're just a fencer. So some people in there are 70, some people in there are 12, and you're just a fencer and you just go fence.
We all pretty much know each other and are friends with each other, so it's always nice getting to see them every week.
And if you really want to know why Habala continues to lead the class despite his glowing credentials, that is why. Because it's no longer a teacher-student relationship, it's friend to friend. Reporting for Naperville News 17, I'm Kevin Jackman.
If you have a sports story feature we should know about, drop us a line at newstips@nctv17.com. Kids had a really good time getting a closer look at community vehicles. Fire engines, school buses, and even a truck topped with ice cream were just some of the four-wheel fun at the wonderful world of wheels. The Naperville Park District hosted the annual event at the Whole Foods parking lot on 75th Street.
I think it's a good community outreach event. A lot of neighboring agencies, community businesses, and other community partners all get together to put on the event for the kids.
Kids got the chance to check out the vehicles and even climb on board, taking their turn in the driver's seat.
Mine is the tow truck that's on the outside.
This is the 21st year the Park District has hosted the event. And that's what's happening right here in your neighborhood, Naperville. We'll see you next week. Until then, you can catch up on local news by signing up for our NCTV 17 News Update, delivered right to your inbox Monday through Friday. Sign-up information is right on our website, nctv17.com.
This week's Naperville News 17 is brought to you in part by the following sponsors. This program is partially funded by a grant from the City of Naperville.